I do have a secret for you. Everybody lean close.
Okay.
The British Parliament and the Continental Congress are live, in session, right now. We are going to be bringing you live exclusives from British Parliament and Continental Congress debates, right here on Common Sense. And then after, we're going to have the debaters live from each houses, right here on the show, asking the tough questions and getting the tough answers. That is an exclusive you only get on Common Sense. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We have got you a live exclusive from the British Parliament. Thank you for coming out, folks. We'll be right back on Common Sense.
Being so stubborn, this debate would have been finished months ago.
He raises valid arguments, Wilbur.
Arguments of what? Warmongering? This war is pointless. Too many lives are being lost with too little gain. If the Americans want their freedom, then just give it to them.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't loyal to the crown anyway. If only King George could see reason on this.
Careful.
Listen, I am as loyal to the crown as the Prime Minister himself. But I just can't sit around and do nothing while so many lives are being lost on both sides.
I agree with you. Diplomacy is the answer. The Lord North will not see it, nor will the king. Most certainly Minister Carlton won't. Take the high road on this and just give them the facts. Evidence from not something.
You know what, Will? If it weren't for you, I'd probably be in the gallows by now.
Wilbur, I hope you know that if foreign troops ever landed on my shore, I would never lay down my arms, ever.
Yeah.
They're fighting for their homeland. If I was fighting for mine, I wouldn't give up. We just have to convey our facts very carefully.
You know, I understand that. I'm just not sure Carlton can see that we might be on the losing side of this.
In regards to that comment, I'm as sure as it might be.
Well, maybe our arguments today will finally convince him otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members of the Parliament, Wilbur Forrest. I rise today in support of the war with America. As I've risen faithfully for many years now, I stand before you today to tell you we are winning. To pull out now would brand us as the cowards of Europe, and we all know that France would like that nothing better than that. They would love to move in and seize all of our natural resources, but I, for one, will not sit idly by and allow that to happen.
The honorable member from Liverpool has been saying for some time now that this war would be done in what? Months? And has that happened? No, it has not. Too many lives are being lost and too much money is being spent. And the precious resources that Mr. Carlton is so concerned about are being hopelessly wasted on this war.
That's right.
More than half of the Americans are loyal to the crown. You can't tell me that the odds are against us. My honorable friend from Kingston upon Hull, you are bordering on treason.
Less than 1 in 4 Americans are still loyal to the crown. And must the honorable member from Liverpool continue to dodge my comments by pulling the treason card? Face the facts. You need to face the facts, Mr. Carlton.
Mr. Pitt? The only real arguments here are the loss of lives and the loss of paths. As glorious as our empire is, we cannot afford to lose many more resources, especially with France lying in wait to take advantage of any misstep on our part.
That's right.
The fact of the matter is that America wants its independence more than we want them under British rule.
That's right. We are not wanted in America any longer. And if we continue to outstay our invitation, we will be defeated. We are just fighting for another piece of land. These people are fighting for their lives, for their homes. Causes affect outcomes, and with a cause like this, I'm surprised we haven't lost over half of our troops already. All I'm saying is that countless needless lives are being lost. Must we continue to send our brothers in a sacrifice for a land that is already lost? It's not ours. Or should we bring our troops home to their families?
Our troops choose to fight for their families. When I was in America losing my fingers in war with the rebels, they had to send me home. And you, while I was fighting them, you were busy trying to make peace with them, trying to appease them. I asked you, Wilberforce, are you a Brit or a Yank?
I only care about this because I am a Brit, Mr. Carlton. Have you ever seen the look of a child's face when he sees his brother or father coming home for the first time? Or a wife when she's seeing her husband for the first time in 6 months? And what about you, Mr. Carlton? Being in America, hoping, praying that you would live to see your loved ones again. Must we continue to sacrifice our brothers all for the sake of a piece of land?
It is for them that a man does fight. Why do we go to war, Wilberforce? You're not an army man? You don't know. We go to fight for our king and our country and our honor. We lay down our lives for our brothers, our wives, our sisters, our children. To defend their lives, to defend their honor.
Mr. Carlton forgets something in his statement. That men do fight for honor, their freedom, and their home. But this war, it has nothing to do with our homeland. It has everything to do with a rebellion over taxes and oppression. If we truly cared about our soldiers, we would have attempted to solve this peacefully. But instead, we turned away the rebel ambassadors. We refused to read their letters of peace. I ask Mr. Carlton, do you care about our soldiers more or our money?
Preposterous! This war started, Kit, because the interests of our country were being violated. Money or soldiers? More like rebels or Englishmen?
And so you're saying that you care more about rebel lives than you do the lives of Englishmen? You're saying that you care more about the oppression of the Americans than you do the lives of your own countrymen? Nothing does hurt more in a state than cunning men pass for wise. Sir Francis Bacon, you, Mr. Carlton, are not wise.
No, sir, you
All right, we have got our first guest coming up. You guys just saw him in the debate. He is an activist for peace. He is a voice of the British people, and he is the rising star of British politics. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. William Wilberforce! All right. All right. So, Will, can I call you Will?
Absolutely. Can I call you Thomas?
I don't see why not. We're rather informal here, aren't we? All right. So, Will, tell me how it feels to be the rising star of British politics.
Oh, you're too kind, Thomas.
Nonsense. We all know it. No, we don't. But seriously, let's get down to the facts here. Tell me about your fight in Parliament.
Well, my friend William Pitt and I are fighting to end the war in America. It is essential to the British Empire that we stop wasting our resources. This fight in America has cost us much, too much. The loss of British lives alone is astronomical. Almost 20,000 soldiers have been lost in battle so far. But not only that, our national debt is reaching over 130 million pounds, which in modern American dollars is tens of trillions of dollars.
Tens of trillions of dollars.
Tens of trillions of dollars. And not only that, but less than 1 in 4 Americans are still even loyal to the crown anyway. So with a cause this futile, and with our resources so drained, I see no reason to continue this war. Principles will solve this problem, not more needless war.
Well, you know what I always
I say,
I do. An army of principles can penetrate where an army of soldiers cannot.
I love this guy. So, Wilbur, I know this is the question that we all want to hear the answer. So, are you for the independence of the American colonies? You know I am. The only reason I'm sitting here hosting the show is because I'm for the independence of the American colonies. But, as an activist for peace and to the end of the war yourself, are you for the freedom of the American people?
Well, Thomas,
They're not Americans, they're Englishmen.
didn't you actually say that I prefer peace? But if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children may live in peace. My goal, Thomas, is to end the bloodshed in America, regardless of the outcome, so that our children may live better, more peaceful lives.
Agreed. So, answer me this.
There you go.
Tell us about your acquaintance, Mr. Bannister Tarleton.
Tarleton is an arrogant know-it-all. He has no respect for the preservation of the British Empire.
He's a butcher!
Thomas, I fight for peace. A peace that can only be won if both sides are willing. A peace that will benefit all mankind. A peace that will affect our children and our children's children. I do not want my children living in a world full of war and conflict.
Hippie.
So, this means that you're anti-military then?
No, not at all. I support our troops whenever and wherever. But this, you know what? It comes to this. Government is here to solve problems. And this war is a problem that needs to be solved.
the illustrious King George III will, with American leaders like Samuel Adams, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson? Will he cooperate with any American at all, for that matter?
They're Englishmen. Not
I guess
Americans.
it's
They
English.
belong to England.
That's a good question. That's a good question, Thomas. And I actually think that he will soon. I think that our king is beginning to see, just like I do, that there's no real reason to continue this war. The French will not be there, I don't think, when we leave. I think the American rebels are strong enough to keep the French off of I think that there is no risk to us pulling out now. We lose land that was too much to maintain anyway. We begin to be able to cut our national debt, and we begin to rebuild our resources. But most importantly, we stop the loss of life.
So, Mr. Wilbur, please enlighten my audience on the situation in France. It's a little-known situation. It's more of a political catastrophe, if I had to guess. So, enlighten us on that.
Well, actually, this is a very interesting situation, Thomas. The American Revolution has really begun to create a lot of turmoil in the French people. As you know, they live under a pretty strict monarchy, and the people are starting to see that they can raise up against that strict monarchy. We're thinking that possibly within the next 5 to 10 years, that governmental structure will really be in turmoil. Now, the problem is that, as you know, our sovereignties have never been very much friends, and this siding with the Americans has certainly not helped them. So I think that we're not sure what it might look like if that government gets in turmoil. I think I say all of that to say that we need to, as Britain, begin to take our defensive eye away from New York and begin to point it toward Paris.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, that's very interesting, Wilbur. Thank you for coming out, by the way.
It has been my pleasure to be here, Thomas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. What are you doing? He's going to get a selfie with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That was Mr. William Wilberforce. I think, as an American myself, I find it encouraging that there are people from Britain who agree that the American rebels, that we, the American people, are strong enough to take our freedom. We have got a live exclusive coming at you to the Continental Congress itself. Folks, we'll be right back on Common Sense.
Turn the lights off.
All participants, this is all conversation, take your seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rise with a matter of special importance. The King of England has once again denied our request for peace. This serves as a reminder that we must continue this fight. We will not have our freedom taken away by our oppressive dictators.
And an oppressive dictator won't rule over us. If we continue to pursue peace, We can find a diplomatic solution to the war. We can find freedom without violence.
Neither will an oppressive dictator rule over us if we fight for that freedom. We represent freedom to the world. America is a shining, come on, America is a beacon of shining hope to this world, to the oppressed world. And my prayer is that she will be for generations, but we must fight for that hope.
For goodness sake, Adams, we are winning. Can you not see that? Why sacrifice the lives of poor Americans when we already have our freedom? What good is freedom without a life to use it?
And what good is life without the freedom to live it? With Benedict Arnold's betrayal, we cannot afford to let up. We must let General Washington continue, or all could be lost. Have we spent years for fighting for nothing?
Not nothing, peace. We have been fighting for two things, liberty and peace. I distinctly remember many of us here voting to fight, though you know I did not, because we were in an era of peace and freedom for our children and our grandchildren. Is this how we want to build our freedom? On the blood of war?
Mr. Dickinson, you know how reluctant I was to join the college football. You also know I did extensive research on the topic. I have come to the conclusion that we will see this thing from the end. We have not yet acquired our freedom, and Parliament has no intention of being diplomatic. That's right. If we were to start negotiations now, it would only make us look weak in that field. Innocent boasters about having our freedom. We need to establish ourselves as a free nation, a stable nation that shall not be trifled with.
Very true. I would not have us look weak in front of the world, but with an action that backs words, it makes us look even better. If we try to find a peaceful resolution, the world will work with us, talk with us, trade with us. And if we back those words with actions that we have proved that we can follow through with, then they will also know that we cannot be trifled with. Therefore, not only making us a force to be reckoned with, but also a potential...
Oh, you always, every single time, all you want to do is you want peace, peace, peace. Nothing else. You always want to be, you are a chicken, you're afraid to fight. You are afraid to fight for your life.
Our decisions now will affect the rest of this country's outcome.
That's right. That's right.
If we continue to fight and lose more lives, let's solve this peacefully and take the high road out of town.
That's right. That's right. That is correct. Do you mean, do we allow ourselves to be manipulated? Like, and our freedom taken away like England has done time and time again? Or do we take our freedom? We're not fighting for ourselves, Dickinson. We're fighting for our children. We're fighting for our grandchildren. See, we don't ask these men to die. They die for what they believe in. They die for liberty! We're not fighting for ourselves, we're fighting, we're passionate that our example has stirred up the population and our allies' friends. Even though they're sworn allies, and even though we appreciate their assistance, they're still an oppressive regime. People everywhere are starting to take their freedom back. Can you not see that, Dickinson?
I do see that. That is why peace is so important. So we can be an example of peace to the world. So that we can show the world that freedom does not have to be won through blood.
That's right.
Would you rather pursue peace and lose our freedom than becoming a failed example to the world, or pursue freedom through our current actions, becoming an example of liberty and perseverance.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, what he said.
But liberty through death? Yes, the world may hail us as the heroes of liberty. Yes, in 100 years, they may not remember what happened here, but we will. We, our children, and our children will remember. We will remember the bloodshed, the death on our hands, the bloodshed we are responsible for, the death on both sides, caused by not pursuing a peaceful outcome. We have fought. We have died.
We haven't won.
Are we really willing to continue
Yes.
a needless war?
It's not needless.
If it means our freedom, yes.
Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I would just like to thank the sound team of Common Sense because apparently I had a faulty mic. So, ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to the sound team. All right, so we've got our next guest coming right up. You guys just saw him debate. Ladies and gentlemen, he is also an activist for peace. Though I am not Jane Fonda, I do like interviewing peace activists. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you John Dickinson!
We want more! Yes! Fried chicken.
You guys kill me! Alright. So, Mr. Dickinson, how are you?
Doing very well, Thomas. Thank you for having me. By the way, is this Maryland Club coffee? I had no idea, but I love it. Well, I tell you, it sure tastes better than that British tea to Parliament.
Oh my gosh. Alright, well, Mr. Dickinson, please tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm currently serving in the Continental Congress as a congressman from Delaware, but I'm originally from Maryland. My wife and I, who I've been married to for 11 years.
Well, congratulations!
Thank you. My wife and I are Quakers. Yes, we are pacifists.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's gotta be one of my aides. Alright, so. Now, let me phrase it to you this way. Tell us about your fight in Congress.
I wouldn't characterize it as a fight, Thomas, but more as a debate. But it goes well. But I just cannot understand how Adams and Jay justify their bloody acts of violence.
Isn't war occasionally necessary to obtain freedom?
We should never have to resort to killing our fellow men to gain freedom. That's against freedom. That is against our goal. See, our goal is that all men should be free, and men cannot live in freedom while being shot at.
Well,
They shoot at us!
Agreed. So, to be absolutely honest with you, Mr. Dickinson, I did not expect this interview to take this turn. All right. So, Mr. Dickinson, I
I have said in the past, and you probably heard in my interview with Mr. Wilberforce earlier, that an army of principles can penetrate where an army of soldiers cannot. Is that your belief, or is that your goal?
Thomas, all conflict has a peaceful solution. We just decided to ignore that solution. See, before the war, I helped exchange pamphlets and documents with the British government about a peaceful resolution. Mr. Adams just decided that a peaceful resolution wasn't satisfying enough to him. See, if freedom could be attained without violence, it would mean that much more of a freedom because it would be based on the foundations of cooperation, peace, stability, and strength of character.
Can't negotiate with terrorists!
So after you sang that, tell us about your principles and beliefs. What motivates you? Is that your belief? Is that your goal? As a pacifist yourself,
Well, I stand true to my beliefs. I am a pacifist. I am not ashamed of it. I believe a society, a nation built on the principles and ideals of peace and stability will last much longer than a nation built on war and violence. Unneeded war and violence at that. See, the supporters of this war stated before the war even began that we were going to need outside assistance. And they rejoiced when it arrived. But at what cost? Our debt is already high. Our economy is already struggling. Close to 25,000 Americans have laid down their lives. Even more wounded. Is this what we wanted? Death? Benedict Arnold, the man who turned the war in our favor, has even left. Arnold crushed the British at Saratoga in 1777, and now he's with them. You see, I don't know his reasons for it, and we should not judge him for it. But I think he sees something that many of my colleagues fail to realize. The war has taken its toll on both sides. See, many know that I failed to sign the Declaration of Independence. But what did I do during that time? I joined the Pennsylvania militia. Why? Well, it's because I'm a pacifist. See, one of the core beliefs of pacifism is if my brothers go to war, I go to protect them. But if we had taken a nonviolent resolution, we would not have to worry about our debts and our deaths. Mothers, wives, sisters would not have to cry every day for the return of their fathers, brothers, and husbands. So, Thomas, I say, bring our troops home.
character is much easier kept than recovered, Mr. Dickinson. And you have certainly kept your character intact. I don't, for one, particularly care where our freedom comes from, whether it's by your plan or the plan of Patrick Henry and Sam Adams. I just want freedom for myself and my country. But I have also said that which we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. Basically, if we obtain our freedom the wrong way, or if we obtain it too easily, we might not respect it the way that we should. And I can't think of anything in the whole world that's less harmful to a nation or its people than a nation being founded on the foundations of freedom and liberty falling into corruption.
Agreed.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Dickinson. Well, I may be the most biased reporter in the room, but as for me, I say, give me liberty or give me death! So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our special guest stars coming in. You saw them on the board earlier. I'm very, very excited to have these people. We have the guys' dance team of Grace Fellowship, appropriately named War Paint, with us tonight. So, without further ado, War Paint.
We have got 2 guests left, okay? But don't tell the first guest. He's not supposed to know, all right? So okay. So, our next guest. You all heard him? He yells really loud. He's a good speaker. He is an activist for military and a pro-war parliamentarian. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bannister Charlton.
He's a butcher!
Man, there are some of you. Wow. All right. Now, Bannister, you know what? Can I call you Ban?
Why not? We're friends, dude. Which one?
Ban. So, wait, hold it, everybody. everybody, before any questions, I just want to thank Mr. Tarleton for his service. He served on the opposite side from me, probably disagree on absolutely everything, but I think it's important to honor everyone who fought on both sides of the war, because both sides of the war are in danger of losing their lives. So let's give them a round of applause.
Wow, thank you. I have to tell you, I sure wasn't expecting that.
Well, we surprised them, didn't we, folks? Now, Ben, I have asked this question to every person that has sat in that chair today. How goes your fighting problem?
I believe it comes down to this, Thomas. I believe the war is worth fighting. I believe that we must continue to defend His Majesty's honor, and regardless of the revolution, it comes down to honor. And even you have to agree with me on this. Even you, that the war is already happening, and it's been around 5 years, and we have to see it through. It would be dishonorable for either side, disrespectful for either side, and unfitting of us to end the conflict now. Men like Wilberforce and Pitt, who fight to end fight, what is that all about? To fight to end fighting. They have no spine. No spine? If Wilberforce wants to see true honor, he doesn't need to look any further than the men of our armed forces who lay their lives down every day for the glory and honor of Britain. That's right. Wilberforce, does their sacrifice mean nothing to you? Have you become so frightened and squeamish that you've forgotten our cause? We fight for the honor and glory of our country. I'm a loyalist, loyal to my country to the end.
Mr. Tarleton, you keep using the word honor. How would you define that word?
You can't use that word too lightly. Honor is defined as high respect or esteem. Men like Samuel Adams, they have no honor for the country, no respect for the British troops that are laying down their lives.
Go home.
The men who are fighting for the respect and esteem of their country.
All right. But,
Here, you could please.
Mr. Tarleton, it could be argued that Mr. Adams is in fact fighting for his country.
The colonies? Oh, they're not a country, they're part of the British Empire. If they truly respected life and liberty and freedom, they would realize that fighting against your own brothers is not only backstabbing, but treasonous and traitorous.
Wow. Okay. What did you say? What did you say? Taxation without what?
Taxation without representation.
All right. So, on the subject of Samuel Adams said in his pamphlet, The Rights of the Colonies, that, I quote, I'm not going to get this wrong. Samuel Adams said in his pamphlet, The Rights of the Colonies, that the natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the law of nature for his rule. What do you say to that?
Well, I hope that Mr. Adams realizes that if his precious America ever does become a nation, it will require laws, regulations, authority, people to run it, like every nation has always needed. And I would ask him, if you're so bent on freedom and honor, liberty and respect and things like this, why do you continue to fight against your own brothers? And why do you fight for a cause that can't ever exist? I wish he was here right now, because I'll tell you what, I would sure give him a piece of my mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Samuel Adams.
He's a butcher too.
Apparently we got two butchers up here, according to some pacifist on the second level. All right, so, Sam, do you want to respond to Van's allegations?
I do. I would like to make a claim that a society that's built upon freedom and liberty can exist. I believe it can exist. But I believe that no one has been brave enough to try it yet. And no, we don't betray our brothers. What we do is we fight so every man on earth will have a right for freedom.
We look to the past as a way of observing the future. There's no evidence in the past whatsoever of any nation surviving that was founded on these principles. Athens fell to tyranny. Rome fell to corruption. The British Empire is the closest thing that's ever come to liberty and freedom. It's true. It's true.
It is true. It is true.
The Magna Carta assures us freedom from a true monarchy, and we have a duty to protect freedom, not fight against it.
I have the right to fight for liberty, not taxation, without representation.
You have a right to fight for your
And I am fighting for liberty.
All right, okay.
Know your road.
Plus they made a beer after me later on.
All right. One more question for each of you before you go. Ben, do you think that the taxes levied on the colonists are too high? Hoping you get a chance to answer
To me, the taxes are irrelevant. They're irrelevant.
taxes
The
are
war's gone on for 5 years now, so what I say is, what difference does it make? The reality is that we must solve this and resolve this conflict and do it honorably.
All right. It seems as though I'm facing the same argument on two opposing sides. So, Mr. Adams, my last question for you. All right. Okay. Killer, this guy kills me. All right, Mr. Adams. Should the war continue, or should the war be stopped through the loss of life?
I think the war has not gone on long enough. We haven't secured our freedom, and we should continue to fight until we do.
Ladies and gentlemen, Samuel Adams and Bannister Carlson. Mr. Bannister Tarleton went on to become an advocate for military veterans. He helped them make the return home from the war with America a peaceful one. He helped make them respected, and basically, he brought our troops home. Mr. William Pitt was around 21 years old during this time. He was elected to become the youngest prime minister in British history several years after this, and he was elected to do it at age 24 years old. He also balanced Britain's first budget. John Dickinson went on to become the president of Pennsylvania. That's right, the president of Pennsylvania. He went on to be an advocate for peace and eventually had a founding hand in what we call today the United States Senate. Mr. John Jay became the first Secretary of Foreign Affairs. He was also around 20 years old during this time. He became the first Secretary of Foreign Affairs, which eventually became the office of Secretary of State. After this, he became the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, greatly improving the law throughout America and making it a stable place for all Americans to live. And I'm not going to tell you that. All right, so all of these men went on to do great things, but what did they have in common? Can anyone tell me what they had in common? Anyone? Their passion? Anything else? Freedom. Passion. Passion. Wilberforce improved civil rights for women, so you can give him credit for that. So, passion and freedom. They all had one thing in common. They had a dream, and they had a passion, and they had the freedom to go through and go after their passion. So, whenever you all leave here, I want you to walk away with three things. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to think to yourself, and I want you to say, who would I have supported? If I was alive during that time period and I was actually a member of British Parliament, and I was actually a member of the Continental Congress, who would I have supported? Would I have come behind Minister Tarleton? Would I have come behind William Wilberforce? Would I have come behind John Jay? Would I have come behind John Dickinson? The second thing I want you to do is I want you to remember the sacrifice, not just for American freedom, because Independence Day is so much more than just American freedom. The sacrifices made by Samuel Adams, George Washington, for our American freedom and to improve the human rights of the entire globe. The freedom that William Wilberforce and William Pitt exercised to let the world know that you can do something as radical as abolishing slavery at as young as God tells you to do it. Third and last of all, I want you to go home. I don't want anybody to leave here without examining your heart and talking to God and asking Him what your passion is. Have you ever noticed how similar it is to live in the kingdom of God as it is to live in a free nation? It's all about choice. You have the choice of whether you can break the law. You have the choice of whether or not you can follow your dream. You have the choice to listen to God. You have the choice not to. You have the choice to run for the presidency. You have the choice to vote. You have the choice to get involved. You have the choice not to. When Jesus died on the cross, He gave us the choice. Much the similar thing that many of the great men and women who sacrificed their lives during the Revolution did for us. That was God-inspired. So, before you leave here tonight, I want you to examine yourself. And I want you to find out what your dreams and your passions are. And then I want you to leave here knowing that in this country, you have the freedom to live your dreams. My name is Thomas Paine, and this has been Common Sense!